Okay. Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. My name is Alicia Williams. I am a licensed practical nurse, and hello my lovelies, what's up, welcome to my channel. My name is Alicia Williams. I am a licensed practical nurse. I am a certified personal trainer. I'm a certified nutrition coach, and in today's video I'll be talking about a little bit about corrections nursing, my experience working as a corrections nurse, my first correction nurse job. So I have been a correction nurse for over the past 4 years, and I work as a staff nurse and as a travel nurse. I have a lot of experience. I work in over 10 jails, and today I'm going to share my experience as a corrections nurse so you can have a basic idea of what it is like when you're going into the jail. So when it comes down to corrections nursing, you have different types of correction facilities. You have your juvenile detention system for your kids up to 18. You're going to have your second juvenile detention system, where it's for your kids who are charged as adults. We do not mix them in a correction setting. Also, you're going to have your county jails. Every county have a jail. Some counties have multiple jails, like Philadelphia, they have a whole cluster. And then you're going to have your state prisons, and understand that not all jails are the same. So if you go to one jail and you do not like that jail, understand that you may go to another county and you may absolutely love the jail. All state prisons are not the same, so you may go to one state prison and you may not like it. You go to another state prison, you absolutely like it. Understand that the county jails are not run by the state or by the city. So if you're trying to get into the jail, you need to understand that these are companies that run these jails. And the major companies that you're looking at, I've worked for, is Prime Care Medical, and they have they run a lot of jails in the Pennsylvania, Florida, a lot of states. Then you have NAP Care, which is a major company. Then you have Horizon, yes, here, and they have jails all over too, in Pennsylvania and in Florida here. And then you have Centurion. Centurion do run some of the state prisons. They're in Georgia, they're in Florida. So yeah, and some of the state prisons, they're run by the state, but for the most part, most of them, the medical department is always contracted out. When you're going into the jail, understand that it's a security issue. Understand that you are being watched. Everything you do will be used and will be used against you. Understand that if you have anybody in the correction system facility, you have to let them know that you have a loved one, so they can either move you or move the inmate. Understand that inmates cannot give consent to anything, so neither, and you have to say it, understand that you cannot be friendly with these inmates. So do not give them your cell phone number. Do not be too friendly with them. Do not tell them personal information about yourself or your children. You are in a security environment and treat it as a security. Do not take anything for granted when you are in the jail. Now, for the most part, most jail require you, almost every jail require you to have what is known as an alarm system that you have to wear. You have to have your ID, which is your clearance to enter the jail, and you have to have a body alarm on you. So I have worked in jails where you sign the body alarm out and you sign it back in when you leave. And then I've worked in jails where I have my own personal body alarm. So if you're ever in a situation and you feel threatened, you press the alarm and it goes off. It's your responsibility to make sure that your body alarm is working and always functional. When you enter the jail, you have to go through a security system. Understand that you're not allowed to have cell phone, any form of communication devices, down to a smartwatch in the jail. You're not allowed to bring food in the jail, and the reason is because of contraband. Remember, yeah, contraband. So understand that when you're thinking about working in the jail. So my first experience in the correction system was literally a little out of nursing school. And you can literally leave nursing school and go straight to the jail, because they are going to train you. Correction nursing is completely different from everything that you know. It is not like nursing home or hospitals. It's a different setting, different environment. Everything you know is completely different. So understand that you're going independent. Number two, you're gonna have a higher patient load. So understand that. Know that before you go in there. It is not as hard as people make it out to be. It can be a rewarding career. Understand that once you go into the jail, you may not be allowed out until the end of your shift. So if you're somebody who's attached to your phone, correction nursing may not be for you. So you have to be mindful of that. Every jail has different shifts. Some jails are 8 hours, some jails are 12 hours. I prefer the 12-hour shift. So my first corrections job I was a float nurse. And so a float nurse is I was making a higher income. My basic was 40, and every jail has different shift differential. Night shift tend to have the highest differential. Understand the jail is always going to have a very high staff turnover, whatever. Some jails do, some jails don't. So as a float nurse, I was assigned to 3 different jails, and I was a fill-in nurse, so that's why my base rate was a little bit higher. Right now, most base rates for LPNs are anywhere from 35 to around 40, depending on the jail, depending on the company, and depending on the county. So, because some county within the same company pay a little bit higher than some, depending on the jail. Because some HSA can determine how much they pay their staff, right? So you have 3 different shift differential. You have evening, and then you have night, which is from midnight to 4 o'clock, and then you have a weekend shift differential. So you do make more money on the weekends. I was making like 41. My basic was 38, but I was making like I'm making like 41 on the weekend. So when I went in, every jail pay difference. I was making anywhere from 40 to around 43, 44, depending on the jail. So the first jail that I went to, that was crazy. It was a smaller jail. The smaller jail, not really affluent county. As I said, every county is different. And so you have the richer counties and you have the poor counties. You have high crime counties, low crime counties. So I was working into a more affluent county. The jail was small. It was like over 500 inmates. When I got there, it was crappy. They only had 1 med card. And 1 med card. And 1 nurse was expected to do the med pass. I told him, listen, I'm not coming up here to do this med pass by myself. It's like a big jail. It's like 500 inmates. Like trying to do like a med pass for over 400 inmates was crazy. So they eventually got a second med card. So they had 2 nurses doing it. And so the med pass would start from around 7 o'clock and it goes all the way up to whenever you're done. And so with that jail, the first crazy thing about that med pass was that the med card was crazy. The med card was, they had their own pharmacy, so you have to stock your med card. So the medications were supposed to be in alphabetical order, but they are and they are not. So it's crazy because, say for example, like you're looking for atorvastatin and you think it would be in A, but it's in L, it's in Lipitor. So the medications are stocked in generic and brand name. You don't know where everything is. As a conflict, you gotta figure it out. That was the hardest part of me learning the med card. It was the most, that's what take the bulk of your time. Now they had 3 different assignments. So you have intake, which I absolutely hate. So intake is the first part of the jail. When once an inmate come in, you have to assess them. Then you got to do a full assessment, and then you are the person who's housing the inmates based off their offenses. Then you have triage, where you work in the triage system. When you're in triage, you're doing detox check, diabetics, you're doing assessments, because when the inmates, they come in, they put their sick card in, so you're assessing them, and if they need to go to dental, you send them to dental. They need to go optical, whatever their needs are, you're doing all of that. And then you have the med pass. Right, and then you have other things like segregation rounds, MHU. Right, that's the first thing. That's most of it. The second part of it is that with the med pass. To go back to the med pass. The med pass is pretty depends. So the first year I reckon you have to go to them. So you have your MHU, mental health unit, which is your inmates who are really all schizophrenic, all that. So you have to pull their meds ahead of time. put it in a little cup, navel it, and take it to them. And then you have where they call the hole or disciplinary unit. So you cannot take the med card in there, so you have to pull those inmates meds. And then you have inmates who are like on segregation, so you have to pull their meds. So you're taking like an hour out of your time, you know, between I start work, you go from 3, I was working from 3 to 11, so between 3 and 5 I am going over the list, because you have to pull your list, and I'm going over the list and I'm writing 100 cups, you know, writing all the inmate names on the cup, their location on the cup, and then I'm pulling the meds, stacking the meds, and I start my med pass at around 7 o'clock. And then so you have to go to the block. So you go to block A, block, so the jail is in alphabetical order. You have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And then some jails have the female pod and then the male pod, right? And then you have different units. You have, some jails do have what they call it, what they freaking call it, it's like they have the bunk beds. It all depends. They have cells, and then they have the bunk bed where all the inmates are in one specific area and they share a bunk bed. So you go to the cell door, you say medications, they're supposed to come to you with their IDs, whatever medications they need. If they're getting any form of psych meds, it has to be crushed. So that specific jail that I worked in, it was horrible, because we gave out a lot of narcotics like a clonopin, because persons who are detoxing, they have different detox protocol, and you're going to have a lot of detoxers coming to the jail, and detoxers are going to make your job a living hell, because they get all of these medications. So each detox protocols have different things in it, and the detox medication can be up to 10 medications. So they're getting Zofran, they're getting Protonix, they're getting vitamin C, a whole lot of stuff, clonidine. So it all depends, and some of them might get tea tree, Tylenol, codeine. Some of them might get Librium. So it all depends on what they're getting for the clonopin, what they're getting for the detox check. So you're gonna pull those medications. You have to document, because you have to sign out everything, right? Oh, and the next part, I don't know how I forgot that. So when you go into the jail, you always have to do your counts. Everything has to be counted. Needles have to be counted. The lancets everything has to be counted and accounted for. And then Suboxones, right? Everything has to be counted, right? So that's basically what you're doing with your med pass. Also, you have another part of the jail, which I completely forgot about, is in my previous video, is Suboxone. So some jails do have it, some don't, where it's the Suboxones are basically the detox withdrawal meds, or detox, whatever they call it. So if you're normally the Suboxone nurse, normally it's an assignment. So the only way you may have to give like a Suboxone. So we have the pills that you crush, put under your tongue. It's a different thing. And then we have the strips. So you really may not have to give it unless like they go to court or something like that. That's the only way you may have to give Suboxone. But for the most part, the med pass is pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. You go to them, and you may have a very high med pass. So the first year I had, that was a very high med pass. The med pass was crazy as hell. You know, at first it took me around 7 hours, 6 hours to do the med pass, and then eventually, no, I was doing 8 hours. And then it went down to, as I get to know the meds, get to know the inmates, it was taking me like 6 hours to complete a med pass, but it worked out for itself. And then the day med pass, I remember one day I had to do a day shift med pass, and that took me like 12 hours. It took me 12 hours because I was a new nurse. I was doing the day shift med pass for the first time. Day shift med pass is heavier than the night shift med pass, and they let me sink. When I told let me sink, they let me sink, and it was a big thing. I had to report the HSA. So I mean, it all depends on the jail that you're working. I've always been the only black nurse because I'm mostly work in white jails, but for the most part it is self-explanatory. It's not hard. Correction nursing is a calling. You have to love it to do it. So have yourself a blessed day.